Good evening, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for February 27, 2024. And in the news this evening, man allegedly assaults a cop enforcing law restricting sale of alcohol during an election. The police in St. Catherine are seeking to capture a man who on Monday allegedly assaulted a policewoman at a bar in Kroll District, Riversdale, Spanish Town. They say she was a part of a team that was enforcing the law governing the sale of alcohol during an election. The police report that about 3:50 p.m., the policeman entered the bar and instructed that the establishment be closed until the conclusion of the voting. Polls for Monday's local government election opened at 7 a.m. and closed at 5 p.m. Under the law, all establishments licensed to sell alcoholic beverages, including bars, nightclubs, and liquor stores, must be closed 1 hour before the opening of polling stations and remain closed for 6 hours after the closing of polling stations. Following the order for the bar to be closed, a male patron reportedly became boisterous, and when accosted, he allegedly assaulted the female cop. He managed to elude capture and was being sought up to late yesterday evening. The police will be continuing its search for this individual with a view to prosecuting him, an inspector said. Meanwhile, the returning officer for Eastern St. Catherine, Michael Terrelong, said that the effort of the security forces must be commended. The police were vigilant in enforcement of the law, which governs the closure of spirit license establishments to include bars during the time when votes are being cast, Terrelong said. Throughout the day's electoral activities, the security forces kept a grip on acts of indiscipline. It was revealed that voters were not allowed to take alcoholic beverages onto the compounds of polling stations. Abandoned Toyota Mark X and gun discovered following shooting in Trelawney, driver being sought. Lawmen seized a firearm, 2 magazines, and the Toyota Mark X motor car following a shooting in Mahogany Hall, Trelawney on Monday. The police report that about 9:45 a.m., residents alerted lawmen to the area where the occupants of a Toyota Mark X motor car were firing gunshots. The team responded and conducted a cordon and a search operation. The police say the vehicle was found abandoned in the level bottom area in the parish. According to the police, a Glock 17 pistol and 2 magazines were found in bushes near the vehicle. The weapon and the vehicle were seized for processing by detectives from the Scene of Crime Unit. The police are appealing to the driver of the motor car to turn himself in immediately. Meanwhile, lawmen are appealing to anyone with information that can assist them in their investigation to contact the Falmouth Criminal Investigations Branch at 876-954-3073, Crime Stop at 311-811, or the Police 119 emergency number. Bank of Jamaica no longer issuing old bank notes. The Bank of Jamaica has confirmed that it is no longer issuing any of the bank notes that are being replaced by new polymer notes. Deputy BOJ Governor Natalie Haynes said the central bank is hoping to stick to the 2-year timeline for the older notes to be demonetized. She said a number of steps must also be taken before the notes are fully withdrawn. The line of notes scheduled to be phased out now constitute 40% of total notes currently in circulation, she said, the central bank having ceased issuing the older notes in November last year. When the new polymer notes were first introduced in 2023, the BOJ said it would take about 2 years for the older notes to be out of circulation and demonetized. She explained, however, that the central bank has to be carefully monitoring the situation.
The number of pieces, because that's what we measure, it's about 40% that are the old notes. So it's a 60-40 ratio. We are no longer issuing old notes since last year, November. We are going to give it a little more time because recall there are still some issues with some of the ATMs. The banks are currently at about 99% in terms of ATM acceptance of the new notes as well as issuance of the new notes. However, for some banks, one in particular, the 2000, they're still retrofitting for that. And so we want to wait until that is achieved and you have full coverage for the new notes in all ATMs across the island. You'd have to give the public advance notice to say the demonetization is X date, and that of course also has to be gazetted. So we're going through that process. And of course, Bank of Jamaica's accommodation in terms of destroying those old notes. We have to be ready for when that 40% comes back in. We have to be destroying it. So we think the 2 years is still adequate in terms of all that preparation.
Cross Keys High Dean of Discipline Samuel Smalling dies at 57. Former president of the National Association of Deans of Discipline and the Dean of Discipline at Cross Keys High School in southern Manchester, Samuel Smalling, is dead. He was 57. Mr. Smalling died at Mandeville Regional Hospital on Monday, where he had been admitted since Friday for an undisclosed illness. He served as the Dean of Discipline at the Cross Keys High School for 13 years up to the time of his passing. The Ministry of Education provided grief counseling for students and the staff Tuesday morning. In her tribute, acting principal of Cross Keys High School, Lorraine Reed Henningham, said Mr. Smalling will be remembered for his altruistic nature.
We at Cross Keys High School, we are saddened by the passing of our dear colleague, Mr. Samuel Smalling, our Dean of Discipline, who have been with us for the past 13 years. We are torn and our hearts are shattered this morning as we gather as a school. He was a trailblazer. He was a philanthropist who gave of himself to meet the needs of others. Indeed, it is a sad time for us here at Cross Keys High School, and we seek your prayers and your support as we go through this difficult period.
Judge begins a summation in Beaches Stout trial. The presiding judge in the trial of Portland businessman Everton Beaches Stout MacDonald and Oscar Barnes has begun his summation. Justice Chester Stamp told the jury panel that the evidence should be analyzed objectively. The prosecution, during the trial, which spanned over 5 months, had established a motive and reason why Mr. MacDonald orchestrated his wife's murder. Justice Stamp said this aspect of the evidence is relevant. Tonya MacDonald was killed on July 20, 2020 along Sherwood Forest Main Road in Portland. Justice Stamp also urged the jurors not to guess or speculate, adding that the evidence against each man has to be considered and reviewed separately. The trial continues in the Home Circuit Court. NRSC gets funding to buy speed monitoring devices and breathalyzers for GCF. The National Road Safety Council says it is one step closer to providing the Jamaica Constabulary Force with speed monitoring devices and breath testing equipment to assist in reducing road fatalities. The NRSC applied for and received US $400,000 from the United Nations Road Safety Fund last year. Victor Anderson, program coordinator of the NRSC, told the news that the council is gathering the specifications to begin the procurement process and is hopeful that the police will receive the additional devices this year. Mr. Anderson says the NRSC is seeking to acquire state-of-the-art speed monitoring devices that will be able to print a report that includes a picture of the vehicle and record the speed at which the driver is going. The breathalyzers being procured will allow evidence to be produced on the spot. Some of the money from the United Nations Road Safety Fund will also be used for administration of the project, improvement in data captured for road crashes, improvement of injury reporting systems, as well as the training of officers.